Call to order the monthly meeting of the Lexington District 2 Board of Trustees. And the first item on our agenda is the invocation and pledge of allegiance, and I'll turn that over to Vice Chairman Mr. Bennell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Tonight we have with us Madison and Nicole Pelfrey and Clayton Michael Moore Scheller from BC High School. Madison Ann is a senior at BC High School, where she's in the top 1% of her class. She maintains a 5.1 GPA and is enrolled in all AP classes. Madison Ann is a member of the Math Honor Society and the National Honor Society. She's a recipient of the Furman Bell Tower Scholarship, and Madison Ann has served as a student worship leader at Lexington Baptist Church for 3 years, and where she is also a children's worship leader. She works as a nanny and a tutor for 3 children. And currently, Madison Ann plans to attend Clemson University and major in biology. Clayton Scheller. Clayton is a senior at BC High School, where he maintains a 4.2 GPA and is enrolled in all honors classes. He's a member of the Beta Club, the National Honor Society, and plays for the BC varsity tennis team. Clayton serves as editor-in-chief for the yearbook, is the president of the Tri-M Club, and the president of the Chorus Club. He is also the senior class treasurer. During the summer, he works at Thirsty Day Camp, and currently Clayton plans to attend Lander University, where he will major in business marketing and mass communications. So with that, we're going to ask Madison Ann to step up to the podium to give the invocation, and when she finishes, Clayton, if you will step up to lead us in the pledge.
Pray with me, please. Dear gracious Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you for this day that you bless us with. Lord, we thank you for our school board members, our administrators, our teachers, and our students. And Lord, we pray that you guide us in whatever we do. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much.
Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. The agenda will stand approved as written with no objection. Next item is public participation period. I believe we have 4 people signed up. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. James for just a minute.
Yes, ma'am, Madam Chair. We have 4 individuals that would like to speak about a matter that is on the agenda. According to board policy, we have 15 minutes total time for public participation. Individuals can speak for up to 5 minutes. In this case, we have 4, so it'll be a maximum of 4 minutes per individual, unless they would like a spokesperson who could have the entire 15 minutes. We'll be glad to keep time and let you know as we go through this.
All right, first participant is Amber Vaughn.
Good evening, my name is Amber Vaughn, and I'm speaking to you tonight as a former student of Springdale Elementary School, a graduate of Lexington II, and a native of West Columbia and Springdale. I also currently have a child that attends Springdale Elementary School in kindergarten. I'm speaking on behalf of many of the parents within Parish Plantation. I personally built my home in Parish Plantation so that my child could attend Springdale Elementary School in Lexington School District 2, as did many of the other parents in this community. The first point that I would like to make is that I want to make it clear that those of us who are opposed to the plan are not opposed to the renovations of Springdale Elementary School. We are simply opposed to the plan in its current form that allows buses, faculty and staff, and delivery trucks to access our neighborhood on a daily basis. We want the new and improved school. We would just prefer for it not to infringe on the single entryway that we have in our neighborhood. We also understand that the renovations may increase home values in the town of Springdale and that we certainly want to see our town flourish. But we're concerned that the plan in its current form could deter buyers from purchasing homes in Parish Plantation because of the bus access. We're also concerned about the rushed timeline of the events of this plan. Specifically, the Parish Plantation Board of Directors were first notified of the proposed plan on January 18th, which was just 24 hours before the board then met for the district meeting to approve the plan. We as homeowners were not informed of any of this until our monthly meeting, our quarterly meeting that we had on January 24th. Many of us feel that we as homeowners were not given the chance to voice our concerns to the school board prior to the decision being made. Therefore, we are here today to appeal to the board to please consider alternate plans that do not include our neighborhood as the entrance to the school for bus access. The current access drive off of Watling Road is one alternative that we feel has not been fully investigated. Last we were told the DOT may not approve the curb cut of that road, but we aren't sure if that's been confirmed yet. In our neighborhood, our kids ride bikes, skateboards, scooters, motorized cars, and spend their summers at the pool. Our kids grow up in a safe, quiet community with the freedom to play without the fear of extra cars coming in our neighborhood. We look for each other and we feel safe. By allowing this plan, we feel the safety and security of our children will be compromised, along with the privacy of our neighborhood. Unfamiliar cars will come and go as they please, and buses and semi-trucks will be turning in front of our pool and playground, and our traffic will increase. It will take away the small family neighborhood that we know and love. So all we can ask of the board is that you please reconsider this plan and take the time to look over other options for this entrance. Thank you for allowing me the time to speak.
Thank you. Next is Vicki Lynn Mitchell.
Thank you. I come to you and thank you. That was perfect. I come to you as a resident of Springdale. I am a Yankee that came here 30 years ago. When I first got here, I actually was a new teacher and I taught at Brooklyn Casey and Airport as a substitute. And I think I recognize a couple of people and also did summer school, taught summer school. So as somebody that was passionate about education and wanted to be a teacher, I went a different route, but that's what I started out as. And a lot of the people in my neighborhood are in education and they find it very important. And we all do. As Amber said, we are absolutely in agreement that we want our elementary school to be improved. We are also, many of us, in agreement that we feel that the entrance to our neighborhood and our neighborhood will be changed dramatically if the plan as it is currently approved goes forward. And Amber spoke very well about several topics, and I wanted to mention some topics more related to the roadway of Watling Road, because we're very concerned about changing how our entrance in the intersection of Watling Road and Parish Point Drive might impact us and others in the area. As many of y'all know, the road itself, Watling Road, isn't in great repair. It's narrow. Parish Pond Drive is at the bottom of a dip that goes up and down. It has limited sight line. We have chasms almost on either side, which many of us have seen cars go into. So we have some concerns about having that route for the buses to enter our neighborhood and the trucks, and more congestion in that particular area of the road, because it is an area of the road that does already have some difficulties. As a personal incident, my husband was at the bottom of the road wanting to turn left into Parish Plantation, and a semi-truck from a company that one of our neighbors owns was coming up behind him so fast that he literally realized he was going to get hit. Our dog was in the back. He had to floor it and go up the hill. If this same kind of situation happened with 3 or 4 cars stuck down there, you would have nowhere to go, because you might go into a ditch on this side, or you might have to go into oncoming traffic on this side where you can sit there. And we're very, very concerned about that type of situation, because we've all seen accidents at that location. And also, it's hard to get out. It's just hard to get out sometimes because a lot of people do not follow the 40-mile-per-hour speed limit. I've learned to, but a lot of people don't, and we are concerned about that for our neighborhood and for the children. And again, Amber mentioned this, it's our only entrance and exit, so we do have concerns about it being used on a daily basis, several hours a day. I, for one, have an ill mother who have had to call the ambulance 6 times in the last 6 months to come and get her. The most recent one was on February 15th at 7 a.m. It scares me to think of all those people trying to get in to go to school and the buses and the ambulance getting stuck and not being able to get in there. She can't breathe and I need her to get to the hospital. And she's not the only one in our neighborhood with a serious illness. We have children with serious illnesses and other adults. So it is a concern with that being our only entrance. We have some other issues that y'all may be aware of with our road and some drainage issues, and we feel like the current plan may exacerbate some of those, especially with the drainage. I sit, as I'm driving out every day, look at the drainage coming up under from the 5 acres onto our road because there's so much water there. And it would take a lot, I think. I'm not an engineer, but I do think it will take a lot to fix that and make sure that it doesn't make it worse than it already is. I mean, I'm sure the school board will do the best they can.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, one last thing, we do have a letter. May I present it for you?
Just
Yes.
Rosalie Smith.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. James, and staff. First, I want to thank you, the board, for the work you've done with the bond to improve the district's aging schools. As a longtime resident of Springdale, thank you for your tireless efforts on behalf of Springdale community to provide the additional improvements to the overall interiors and exteriors of Springdale Elementary. I am a firm believer in, and have studies to back it up, that modernizing schools has a broad array of impact on the community, home values, the children who attend the school, and the employees in the school. And I was honored to be part of that referendum task force. Since 2011, I've also been privileged to continue working with a group of community volunteers, all professionals working to secure the resources to provide a modern, restructured playground for Springdale Elementary. The vision was ultimately conceived to address the ongoing rise in childhood obesity and increasing lack of physical activity. The redesign was well thought out, strategically developed, and unanimously approved by the town and the school board. A joint use agreement with the district and the town was also established to allow families to use these school facilities after hours, which many now do. In the initial stages of the design, we engaged the broader community and state health officials who became excited that this unique prototype could be used to encourage other schools and communities throughout the Palmetto State. Everybody knew that creating and providing creative options to encourage physical activity was a public health priority. There are tons of studies which capture the benefits of PE and recess. Why the playground redesign? Because studies indicate that a structured, safe, well-designed PE environment is strongly recommended for children. Previous studies indicate that the evidence of effect was stronger on elementary students than high school students. And that was the Center for Disease Control. Studies indicate that strategically marked, placed play zones and physical structures.
Everyone, please stand back and welcome the tip.
Let's give Miss Lynn Summers a cheer. Okay. Summer.
Yeah, boys, clear the door, boys.
structures significantly increase a child's physical activity levels. What do children learn on the playground? Leadership, socialization, communication, sportsmanship, imagination. Just like adults, they need a change of pace. Who benefits when children are healthy? We all do. Since 2011, the Springdale community has held up our end of the agreement. We've poured asphalt, created new free play zones, new basketball court, 2 outdoor classrooms were constructed, new soccer facilities erected, a beautiful new pavilion with ADA seating was installed, first of its kind electronic computer gaming was installed, among other items. We made an agreement with you to provide this one-of-a-kind fitness park for these children, and in good faith, I'm beseeching you to protect this special place. Millions are spent on well-designed schools. Designs are well thought out, they're colorful, they boast modern furnishings, they're strategic, and they're safe. Safety has now become a budget line item. Hundreds of thousands of dollars are targeted to ensure the safety of children at school. Play areas for elementary children with their proven health benefits should be no different. Schools and playgrounds are inextricably linked. Millions of dollars are being allocated to provide and protect large play spaces for high school students. I appeal to you for the same consideration for Springdale Elementary School students, all nearly 600 of them. Developing this park, the entire community benefits. Renovating Springdale Elementary, the entire community benefits. I urge you to allow us to complete development of this facility as originally proposed and approved, and not to eliminate the safe ingress and egress the children now have as they run freely out of the back doors of the school to the playground. We trust that an alternative traffic control measure is being discussed and amicably be worked out by the efforts of all. The 30-foot wide paved road proposed will divide the playground to accommodate buses, employee vehicles, and delivery trucks throughout the day. 600 children should have safe, unrestricted access to their playground. Thank you.
Blake Summers.
Madam Chair, members of the board, I'll be brief. While it's important to be good neighbors in all of our school communities, I think it is equally important, if not unacceptable, to consider allowing regular traffic to cross any of our school playgrounds. That said, I would hope that based on the comments that we're hearing tonight, that all considerations will be thoroughly vetted before voting on this matter. These considerations would include realigning the proposed footprint of the facilities impacting the ingress and egress to the opposite end of the campus. This will allow servicing from Churchdale Road, and then importantly, reaching out to the residents of Parish Plantation by extending an opportunity for selected members of our board and a representative group of their neighborhood to discuss any possible benefits of accessing their entrance. Time or timing in the resolution of this matter is important and even critical in getting this project under construction. In the interest also of being better than a good neighbor, I would hope that if any of these suggestions are of interest, that taking the next few weeks off to better explore the options until the next board meeting would better ensure a workable plan. Thank you.
Next, thank you all for speaking. Next item on the agenda is report on honors and accomplishments of students and staff, and I'm going to turn it over to Dr. James.
Yes, ma'am. We would like to recognize Brooklyn Casey's high school varsity competition cheerleaders. These young ladies were the first runner-up in state 3-day competition. Part of the uniqueness that these ladies have carried out is on several different occasions they have competed at levels that included more than just the 3A. This is the highest finish we have ever had in competition cheerleading at Brooklyn Casey High School. We'd like to congratulate them, congratulate our coaches, thank their parents for allowing these ladies to spend so much time there in cheerleading. Cheerleading has changed drastically since I was in high school. It truly is a sport if you ever watch these. I'd like to read these names off, ladies. If I mispronounce your name, it is absolutely unintentional, but we do want to make sure that you are recognized. Kennedy Anderson, Abby Anderson, Brandy Brown, Shawnice Cleveland, Cassie Corley, Sarah Corley, Lindsay Ebner, Caden Giles, Peyton Brennmacher, Bailey Carter, Sierra Hayes, Benicia Hopkins, Taylor Lawson, Laney Long, Lindsay Parker, Savannah Pittman, Christian Ratcliffe, Grayson Riddle, Reed Riddle, Isabella Riddle, Selena Riley, Mary Schaefer, Anson Staton, Madison Stutz, Delaney Toms, Alex Truesdale, Brayden Waters, Jay Waterford, Kaylee Watts, Katie White. The head coach is Alicia Dickerson, and the assistant coach is our own board member, Ms. Beth Brown. Congratulations.
I can't help that. It's not my fault.
Are competing local, state, and national level and doing exceedingly well. The board's attention to the accomplishments of these young folks.
Thank you, Dr. James. Next item on the agenda is unfinished business. Item A, consideration of Springdale Elementary School bus access. And I'll turn that over to Mr. Eisenhower.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. James, as you know, the board has approved the schematic design for Springdale Elementary, which includes the bus loop coming off of Parish Pond Road. At the time, we mentioned to you that we were having difficulty finding out who could actually give us access on that road, simply because the developer we were told had gone and the company was no longer viable to company. So we went through several steps to try to procure proper access through that area. We met with the town of Springdale officials. We also met with the Homeowners Association board members. After that meeting, the town of Springdale and the Homeowners Association were all in favor and supportive of the plan that we had proposed. I was asked to come back January 30th and answer some questions from folks that live in the neighborhood behind Harris Plantation. And at that time, we learned that there was considerable opposition to the use of Parish Pond Road. So in order for us to keep the project on time and on schedule, we immediately came back, pulled together the design team, and we started looking at our other viable options. At the time, we only had one other option, which was coming off of Watling Road. And if you recall, and we'll show you these, I've got the entire design team here, which includes the architect as well as the civil engineer. And we're very pleased to say to you that we feel that we've created another viable option in looking at all of the entire campus and looking at all of the possible options, the costs involved. We think that we've come up with at least one other viable option that we're going to call option C. And I've given you a packet of information, and we're going to be pulling these up. Mr. James Gallagher from Boomerang Design is going to kind of walk us through these. I will say to you up front, in the packet, you will see the number of parking spaces available in each of the options, and you will also see the amount of stacking, car stacking, that will be available to get cars off of Watling Road, Churchdale, Parish Pond, whichever route we decide to go with. I'll also say to you that I challenged this team to come up with as many parking spaces as we could. The school currently has 49 parking spaces according to the principal. I asked this team to at least come up with between 120 and 150 parking spaces, which we feel will be needed for the functions and things. This school is so that the people in the community are so involved in this school. We want to make sure that we can try to provide ample parking and get everyone off the road and out of the grass, so that we can beautify the campus and make it something that all of the community folks will be proud of. However, in creating these parking spaces, I will tell you that the budget has increased because of when we first priced this, we only had 71 parking spaces in the budget. If you look, you can see that we have considerably more than that. So we can value engineer some of those out if we feel that we need to do that. But I think in looking at all three of these options, we feel that option C would give us the ability to save money. We feel that we've discussed and we realize that there would be some concern about students crossing that road, going down to the playground. Mr. Bill Cram has had some experience in this type of thing before, and he actually talked about a previous design that they had used where that there's obviously a crosswalk, there's stop signs, and there are gates. And when a car comes through, the gates actually close the crosswalk so that students cannot cross the road while a vehicle is crossing or that pedestrian crossing. So we feel that we can come up with safety measures to accommodate this option. And in looking at it, we really feel that we're going to end up recommending that option to you. But I want to go through the whole process and how we arrived at that conclusion. So, James, if you'll kind of walk us through this, we would appreciate it.
James, Madam Chair, everybody on the board, thank you for giving us a little bit of time. We'll be brief. Dom's done a really good job of explaining really where we are in the options. We've got just a few slides to talk about. These are the existing conditions. You can see Churchdale Drive to the left, Watling to the south, and Parish Pond there to the right. And then the treat area is that area that's of the new property, the relatively new purchase property. Option A that we've talked at length about and developed quite a bit. This option would improve Parish Pond Road to heavy-duty asphalt to this magnitude, and then it brings a drive onto the site for buses and deliveries to the rear of the new cafeteria. The light orange is the existing building, the dark orange is the new additions. And it also provides better access, much more parking than what is existing off Churchdale. This option has 148 parking spaces on site, and this option allows on-site stacking of 57 cars. And the stacking is how many cars can line up as they're dropping off children without being in the road. That's how many would fit within the property boundaries. So that's option A of accessing off Parish Pond.
May I point out also, before you leave that one, if you notice, there is, even in all of our plans, Office of School Facilities requires us to have fire truck access within 150 feet of every part of that building. So you can see, even in this option, there's a fire truck lane that basically goes around behind the building that has to exist based on today's standards for schools.
And I should have also pointed out, this is the existing playground. This is Cindy's place there, which is infringed upon just a little bit, but that basically remains in all of the schemes. Option B. In this option, we access the site for bus and truck traffic off an existing curb cut on Watling Road. This is an existing curb cut, although there's not a road to it any longer. And you can see how close it is to Parish Pond and then how close it is to the existing curb cut that we're reusing for the traffic. This has the same exact access and parking off of Churchdale as the previous option. Again, the light gray is the code-required fire access road that we know that we have to provide. And as Don was saying, there's problems with this as to the magnitude that DOT would make this road be improved the entire length by using that curb cut. It's also primarily because it's so close to the other curb cuts on the road. On this option, this provides 135 parking spaces on the site and on-site stacking of 44 cars. It goes down a little bit because this drop-off loop gets smaller when this road comes in here. Option C, which is the one we think is most viable, this allows our automobile drop-off loop to be larger. It has the buses and deliveries sharing what is the fire road. It would have to be widened a little bit from the fire road, but not much. This gives us the option of if buses already use this road, this gives us the option of bringing those in here, and it modifies this a bit, but it primarily separates the traffic. In this option, we have 135 parking spaces and on-site stacking of 68 cars. So that's really the three options. I don't know, Bill, if you want to talk about anything. Those are the three. If there's any questions, we'd like to kind of answer them.
And again, we have our civil engineer here. If you have specific questions, we really feel that, and you guys correct me, and feel free to speak your mind, but we really feel like we may be able to eliminate some retaining walls. We feel like we may be able to eliminate some money that we have in the budget for off-site road improvements with using option C, simply because we already have trucks that are coming into that area now, because that is the entrance for the cafeteria deliveries. We also have vehicles that are coming in there because that is one of the drop-offs and pickups for students. So we really, the question that we have about this, we know that we would have to improve the turning radius on Churchdale, because that was one of the things that the South Carolina Department of Transportation has indicated to us that we would have to do. But we're questioning whether or not we would have to improve, actually bring the road, Churchdale Road, up to commercial heavy-duty standards, because we think it's already there. So if that is indeed the case, then we think we would be back close to where our original budget was, which was $10.8 million. Now, if I have misspoken, please correct me.
You summed it up accurately.
Mr. Johnson?
Couple questions. So I know that there's somewhat of a fire lane back there now. Is that, or there's some paved access back there now, right? Where you're saying the fire lane has to go?
There's a track back there, but it doesn't come close to qualifying as fire access.
Okay. So regardless of whatever we do, that fire lane has got to be there. Okay.
As a state code requirement.
Second question is, can you explain, and Don, this might be more you, which loop's being used for what? You know, are we splitting up grades here, kindergarten in front?
We are, and the school currently does that now. What we try to create when the ideal design for a school is to basically have 3 areas where you drop off and pick up. And we've created that. On the left-hand side, it's my understanding that right now that is, I think, 3 grade levels. In front is also 3 different grade levels, and then obviously in the back would be for bus drop-off and pick up. So I think that according to the principal, they still would probably utilize those same grade levels, but there could potentially be some changes in how they restructure that. But I think right now they're planning to stay with what they have.
Follow-up question, you mentioned the automatic gate. Is that included in the budget that you're talking about? Because that's obviously the concern I would have would be the safety issues. And I think Dr. Jane, you mentioned the quantity of trucks was pretty small.
Yeah, there's a low number of.
It's three deliveries per week.
And 5 buses.
So, that, one thing, Mr. Giles, you and I were talking about earlier, is we feel that the deliveries are regular enough and with 3 during the course of the week. We really feel like we can work around those times, and if we're able to add those gates in that Don's looked at, I don't see that as being an issue.
Are the gates to the right of that loop there on the left? Is that where the swing?
That would be in this area right here. This would be designated where the children would cross from the building into the playground. And so this would be the area where there would be a gate that when it was open for children to cross, it would be closed to traffic, and then vice versa. When there was a delivery coming in, those gates would close off the ability to cross that road into the district.
Can those roads be closed off during non-school hours?
You can, yes, you can.
At the beginning and
You can put simple gates up to do that as well.
Mr. Bell?
In this option, the parking on the left-hand side of the school, that looks like an awful lot of driveway for not very many parking spaces. I mean, we got a large loop, but we don't have very many spaces off of it compared to what we have in these other drawings.
Well, what we're trying to do in each of the options is maximize the length of the drives within the property lines so that you get maximum spacing. One of the big things, one of the most dangerous aspects of what's the existing conditions is the traffic that's backing up onto the road and the people who are parking on the edge of the road and that sort of thing. And it may be possible that we can add spaces. This has been configured so that your main drive here at the rear, it's largely separated from the automobile. So it's changed its configuration here, but it allows trucks to come straight in and really not cross what they resistance with cars.
And I want to point out that, and Larry pointed this out to me, that basically you can see that road, the entrance there is not lined up with the church drive or access on the other side.
The church drive.
And that's basically the South Carolina Department of Transportation. They are basically requiring us to do that, are they not?
Well, the issue is, and I'm Larry Bartholomew with ADC. The issue really is the delivery trucks coming in. A large truck needs a straighter drive to get in there. And so the previous plans that you saw, there was the sharp curve to get in. So to remove that sharp curve, we had to pull the drive down. We've already talked to DOT. They're on board with the offset of the drives of the church. So we know that this plan can proceed as it is right now.
This is one of the previous options. You can see how it lines up here, but these sharp curves basically here to get a truck needs to be adjusted once that in the next option where it becomes the shorter distance here. And the radius here is what has us not aligning with that.
Larry, to address Mr. Bingham's question about parking, can we not also emulate what we had on the other drawings and get additional parking on that side?
Yes, we can. And so really, it was a balancing act for us is, okay, we know we've got 49 spaces on site right now. This plan here provides 135, so we're in that 2.5 to 2.75 times what we have out there now. This provides an additional length for stacking, which in my mind, if parking is not an everyday issue, and maybe it is, maybe this isn't enough, but to me as a parent of an elementary school child, that the added stacking distance to me is more important to get those cars off the road and try to get them on site. And that's why we did, but you're right, we can very easily put parking on that southern corner.
And I'll just say one comment, I think the stacking is more important too, because we do have a very good relationship with Spring Baptist Church, so we always have additional parking. If there's an event at night or something like that, they've always been very gracious and allowed us to park extra cars over there, so I think the stacking is much more important too.
Another point to make too is the majority of the length of this drive is 2 lanes wide. If you have a night event, after an event, you can use one of those lanes of parking and you still have 1 lane to get by people.
Question back on Cindy's place back there. Are we infringing on anything, any playground equipment, hard black surface or anything back there?
We are. And it's primarily the location, maybe you may be able to answer this better, but it's primarily the location where this drive has to go to fire lane anyway.
But what I'm saying, are we impacting any kind of equipment other than the community, in a fortune on a piece of equipment there is very valuable, I know it's hard to move.
Do you know that?
The equipment, not really, but we are impacting the track that goes through there. And we'd have to do that anyway.
Are we going to replace it?
We are. What you can't really...
In there, complete loop?
Yes. Yes, what you can't see is really light white colored, but there is some labels that says relocated tracks. We are planning on putting that back in.
So we will make it continue to circle back like it was?
Yes.
And not impact any of it?
We understand the importance of that.
Yeah, the design team is on board up front, realizing that Cindy's place is very special to that community, and we've done everything we can do to minimize any impact on that.
And this plan here actually, in my mind, protects it even more because that drive is further down south, so it's actually less impactful on the north corner there.
With this option here, is there any way we can get more parking back closer to Cindy's place where they do have a lot of venues back there, they do have birthday parties, and if we can get parking back closer for it, I know one of their goals was to have an entrance to it and parking back there. Can we accommodate that?
Yeah, we can look into that.
And again, when it's after hours, this fire lane access road, unless you completely close it off, it's 20 plus feet wide, and that is enough to line cars up along its length and still have a lane.
I'm sorry, any more questions? Will there be a fence or anything along the side of this road to keep the kids from going across this road at any point? They will be centrally located just at the crossing walks. That's the only access to the playground.
That is the goal.
And they will be contained from
We
both
haven't
sides.
really designated that, I don't know, Don, if you want to, but that is the idea, is to, this be the only access.
I think the assistant principals here, Jim, you have any comments on that about, can we can we isolate the student crossing to one area, you think?
Yes, sir. We currently have the one access that comes through off the church there with deliveries, and we already have that closed with the gate. So that won't change too much, and the entire playground is going to be on the other side of that fire lane. So.
So, do you have a recommendation?
Yes, ma'am. We recommend the change in scope to go with option C, which we feel will be a cheaper option, and we really feel that we can make it as safe as the first option that we had. Part of what we did not mention is this gets us out of what we had previously was some underground detention. This eliminates the need for underground detention. So overall, we think that this option is certainly a viable option, and it is our recommendation.
We have a recommendation. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve administration's recommendation for option C.
Motion, do I have a second? Second by Ms. Kessler. Any discussion?
I know that you're saying it's the less expensive option, but could you provide a little bit more clarity on how much less expensive it is?
They're really close. Really, it comes down to probably about $200. Option B is the most expensive because of what we would have to do on Watman Road. Option A is the next most expensive because of the underground detention that we were going to have to go with. Option C, if we, is probably $200,000 less than option A, would be my guess. And you guys, again, that's kind of what we're talking about. Has anything changed on that?
According to what's in our book, it's 290.
And then if, well now, that has to be corrected, that has to be updated some because of the parking and all of these things that are involved. But if we end up not having to upgrade Churchdale Drive any more than just doing the turn radiuses, then option C becomes considerably cheaper because of the fact that we only have to do a turning lane and widen the radiuses there at just right near the church.
The money savings there, we can put back in secure Cindy's place and cover that gate option we're looking at.
Any other discussion? All right, I have a motion. I have a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Madam Chair, I'll ask Todd Seeks to come up to the podium. We were asked to give some information on solar panels. And Mr. Seeks has become the expert on solar panels.
Thank you, Mr. Eisenhower. Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. James, thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. Yes.
Stop, just one second. I was giving some people some time to look around.
All right.
So we can give you our full attention.
Perfect. All right. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board, and Dr. James. Pleasure to be here tonight, share some information with you. And as Don said, we certainly aren't experts, but we're learning more and more about solar panels every day. And at the Cape Center, we think there's a wonderful opportunity to create a photovoltaic array, and that will benefit the school district and also serve as a teaching tool for the students at the Cape Center. So if you look along this south-facing facade, there's a wonderful opportunity to create like a 25 kW array that over a period of time will be able to generate energy. We've been in touch with the South Carolina Energy Office, and we're trying to make contact with SENG. They have some really nice programs in place now where they will actually purchase the power that you generate back at a cost greater than what you are able to purchase power. So it's a good deal. And these panels will pay for themselves over a period of years. And there's some discussion about what that payback period is, but eventually it pays for itself. And it's renewable energies. It's a teaching tool. We think that in the future it will become something that is more common. It's certainly becoming more affordable, especially with some of the programs that SENG and the Energy Office have in place. So we would like to get your permission to proceed gathering more information about that, but we think we've got a great place to use it on the building, and then we can just determine the size that we want to include. But certainly a 25 kW array is something that we think is doable and affordable.
Are we looking for a motion, or this is just for information?
It's just for information. Basically, we were asked to provide some information, and I think what we're saying is we think it's a viable option. Unless you all object, we will continue to pursue these options.
Ms. Brown?
Madam Chairman, just for clarity's sake, Mr. C, that's the greenhouse right there. That has nothing to do with.
Yeah, that's the greenhouse. So we just we took one of the renderings that we already had. So this is kind of the 12th Street view of the Kate Center, and what we're proposing is the array panels would be located on the covered canopy at the service yard, and that's the south-facing facade that we want to accommodate those panels. That's the best utilization of placement of the solar panels.
So all panels will be on the roof and there's no solar field as per se?
Correct.
Mr. Bennett?
I know that the SENG program does pay for the power use, so we use them sort of as the battery. Basically, we generate it, we shove it back into the grid, and we use the grid whenever we need to use the grid. But you may want to investigate potentially some sort of a lease purchase option here, so that we don't have to use bond funds for the capital cost for that, since we're going to be utilizing O&M, basically savings on electricity bill from out of the O&M, that we can pay it back out of that, instead of having to use our bond funds for that particular purpose. So you may want to look at some way where we can at least purchase that as a separate thing that's funded.
Okay. Yeah. So again, we've got some phone calls into SENG, and they do have those type payment arrangements, and that's a great idea to be able to afford this. Yeah, we'll investigate that further as well.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir.
Great, thank you.
Madam Chair, were you looking for a motion for
No, I asked them. Now, we will go to the next item on the agenda, which is new business. And I will turn over item A and B to Dr. James.
Yes, ma'am, Madam Chair, you've got a letter from Dr. Cooper to me, labeled A2 in your packet. Dr. Cooper met with Mr. Moore, the board's attorney, to discuss an issue that caused us somewhat of a problem in being competitive with surrounding districts and hiring teachers. When we currently have a teacher that we're bringing on board, we give them a contract. In that contract, it says that it is contingent upon board approval. What happens is oftentimes, particularly during this time of year, during hiring season, we may end up with 30 days in between the time that we give an individual a contract and then we tell them that that contract has been ratified. The problem with that is we run the potential of, even though someone hears that it has to be ratified, they have a contract that's signed by the superintendent in their hand. Part of my concern is not to to mislead someone and just resign from a job and then it not be ratified. The other alternative is not to give them a contract, but to say, we will take you to the board for approval and then give you a contract at a later date. Again, that gets 30 days into it, which causes Dr. Cooper anxiety in the fact that she may have a very good candidate who is not willing to wait 30 days before they go somewhere else. The board policy is such that the superintendent has the authority to issue contracts. What we haven't done in this district is utilize the authority to issue a contract and implement the contract. You can see the letter there that Mr. Moore helped Dr. Cooper with. We're looking for the will of the board and whether or not we need to wait, not issue a contract, but my recommendation would be that when we're hiring teachers, once we have a principal that makes a recommendation, Dr. Cooper's done the background check, there's not anything there that would prohibit an individual from being hired, that we be allowed to give them a contract and that we hold to that contract, that we aren't misleading someone unintentionally by giving them a contract and then maybe 30 days later coming back and saying, no, it wasn't ratified by the board. So my recommendation would be that we utilize the board policy in the fact that we issue, the superintendent has the authority to issue a contract and Dr. Cooper has the authority to implement it at that time rather than wait.
I mean, I can wait until there's a motion on the floor, or I think we go and ask a question, or how do you want to proceed? I don't want to make the motion.
Okay.
So I can wait until.
I have a recommendation. Do I have a motion?
What is the motion for?
The motion would be to authorize the superintendent to issue a contract that is not only given to the individual but implemented, so that they do not end up waiting 30 days before the contract takes effect.
I'll make a motion to table this for further discussion and research. That's been my motion, and I can speak to that. I second.
Okay. I have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second? Second by Ms. Kessler. Discussion.
And Madam Chair, I appreciate, I know Dr. Cooper has her hands full trying to fight with other districts over employees. I have a little bit of concern, and this gives me a little bit of heartburn because I think other boards are doing exactly what we're doing. We allow you to go ahead and offer jobs, and that's kind of been our policy, but they just realize that there's a clause in that contract that just says subject to board approval. We usually approve those contracts within 2 weeks, at the longest, a month, and I don't know that we've ever really had any kind of big issue with doing that, and I don't know that we've ever really lost people because of that. I think other districts kind of do the same type of policy, so I guess the reason I'm asking to table it is to indeed find out what some of the other surrounding districts that we're competing with, what do their contracts look like? Do they have the same clause that we have in there? Just because I feel like there's been at least a few times that there's been some additional input needed, and having that extra couple weeks has actually benefited the district. So that's why I'm asking to table it, just to see what surrounding districts are doing. I understand why you propose it, and I'm certainly in favor of it, and I appreciate y'all's foresight in that, but I'd like a little bit more comparison with some other districts.
And we'll be glad to do that, Ms. Brown. Our issue arose last year from the fact that we did have an individual who was qualified. Dr. Cooper issued a contract, and they had made arrangements to leave their job, and it turned into a little bit of a problem. So I don't want to mislead anybody, whether we tell them to wait 30 days or do it immediately. My biggest issue is not to have someone feel as if they have an agreement with Lexington too, and they give up their job, or maybe they give up apartment or whatever, they're moving here, and then 30 days later they may have turned down other opportunities, and it isn't ratified by the board for some reason. And understand full well going in that contracts if we maintain our practice, the contract's only a contract after the board is voted. And that may be the thing, we just issue a contract after the board vote. Hope for the best.
Mr. Fairfield?
Yes, Jake, I need to ask you, I know that we've been told at the School Boards Association meetings that we must vote on every contract issued by the district, which includes contracts for all employees, whether it's by the hour or whatever, we've got to actually vote on those contracts. And that that's our duty under the South Carolina law. So how would the change being proposed, if we're going to authorize the superintendent to enter into a contract that is then binding without the board voting on that contract, is that congruent with what South Carolina law will allow us to do?
Bill, the answer to your question is, first of all, this is without any in-depth research, okay? So I will give you the answer as I understand this off the top of my head. The present board policy, as it is written, allows the superintendent to enter into the contracts with the teacher. The policy that we have does not require the actual board approval as that policy is written now. To my understanding, that's what we looked at, isn't it? Is that correct? Now, in practice, even the policy says we don't have to do it. In practice, we have had our contracts basically having the clause in there saying that it is subject to board approval. I believe that lawfully, you can authorize the superintendent to enter into contracts on behalf of the school. I think you can basically delegate that authority to him as the policy presently does. Now, certainly a better practice would be if you authorize that. If you make this change, the better practice is going to be that you, at the end of every recruitment, you basically go back and ratify all the contracts. We ratify. But I do believe that you can give, as we presently do, the superintendent the authority to actually enter this contract. I do think that the contract are with the district, and the superintendent has the authority to basically be the superintendent of the district. As long as you've officially delegated that authority to him, I think he has the authority to actually act. Obviously, to be totally safe and totally congruent, you want to come back and ratify those contracts again, like I said, after issue. But I believe, again, with the caveat, having done the total research, I think you can do it that way. But it's a policy decision. Right now, the policy is you don't have to approve them, but the unofficial policy is we do. And, you know, the question becomes, is it costing us teachers?
I understand that. I think that what I'm going to ask you to do then, and I understand I'm asking you that cold without the benefit of any research, is that you research that point and give us the specific legal advice in regard to whether we can do that without approving that contract.
I will be more than happy to do that for you and report it back to you at the next meeting.
Ms. Henson? Last week at the conference, I was at a session that was conducted by an attorney. I can't give you her name. I can look it up. But she's made a statement in there that school board members hire employees, every employee in the district. That's not what I raised my hand to say, but she did make that statement.
Oh, it's
and
true.
The way she said it is that we actually have to approve the contract. So I might be, that's something I would like. But is this information that you can't get because we have a meeting next week, next Thursday? It doesn't have to wait a whole month if you can research the answer. And so we have a meeting next week. We don't have to put it off until the end.
Not a problem. I'll get it to you quickly.
So we have a motion and a second to get us a little bit more information on this. And so, all in favor, any more discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All right, we'll bring, motion carries. We'll bring that back at the next meeting. Then we'll move on to item B.
Madam Chair, you've got a letter, again, from Dr. Cooper to me, Mark, Exhibit B1, post-Terry employees. The long and short of that letter is our practice has been to hire post-Terry employees back at 0 years of experience. As you know, we're competing with districts around us for good teachers. We will have 19 people or thereabout go out this year. Terry will end completely in 2018. Those folks that went into Terry on 2013 or after are limited to a $10,000 cap. Another caveat in that is we have Airport High School that is a school where everybody we hire there, we would end up hiring at their regular salary. Critical needs, we have some schools in the district that have critical needs courses. We have some schools that are critical needs schools. Even with post-2013 folks and the $10,000 cap, we would by law have to hire them at their regular salary if they're in a critical needs school or in a critical needs course. So what Dr. Cooper's letter asked for and what I would agree to and recommend is that the board give us the authority to hire post-Terry people at their salary. We think that does several things. One is it opens the pool of employees, and we've gone this year with the need for special ed and mathematics that we've lost to other districts. Secondly, it would make things a little closer to being fair across the district between schools and courses that are critical needs. So my recommendation to you is that we're able to hire post-Terry employees back at their regular salary rather than 0 years experience.
I have a recommendation from the superintendent. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve administration's recommendation to hire post-Terry employees back at the regular salary instead of 0 years experience.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Key. Any discussion? I'm sorry, Mr. Mann?
Dr. James, do you have any idea what impact that's going to have on the budget?
I can't give you an exact number, Mr. Bingham, because what I know is there are 19 individuals that could qualify. As to whether or not those 19 individuals would be hired, I don't have that answer. So to give you a specific number, no.
Because they're already in the budget.
They're already in the budget, though, at the 0 years experience.
No, we only have, I think, 2 or 3 that are at the 0.
And we're talking about the 19 who come out this year.
Talking about the ones that'll be coming down to Terry this year, they're already in the budget at their.
There are only 3 people right now, Mr. Bingham, that are working retired at 0 years experience salary. But we have about 19 who are going to come out this year. So in essence, Kelly is right, those 19 individuals are in the budget at their salary now. How many would be hired back, I don't know.
Which could equate to about $40,000 more per hire. Because the big difference between a beginning salary and where most of those people will be coming out, it would be about $40,000 more per person.
And that's possible. It also could equate to the fact that we end up with math or special education or science folks that we don't have. And classes having, the State Department of Education still allows 35 students in the classroom. If we don't have a certified teacher, that's the option.
So the answer to my question is it has very
little or no impact on the current budget year. The only impact will be on the budget that we're yet passed for next year.
Correct.
Right, right. They're already in that base.
Ms. Kessler, I'm sorry.
Yes. I do, just for the sake of people in here they're not aware of it, 5 years ago, we had a bunch of teachers that begged this district to allow them to come by and to stay in the district at beginner. They were willing to take beginner pay, and this district said no. So we lost all of those good teachers to there. I'm not quite sure that I'm ready to hire them back at their regular salary, but we lost a lot of teachers because this district said no to those highly, highly qualified teachers, and they walked away. We weren't even willing to pay them the beginner salary.
Will this impact those, the three that are presently hired, Terry, when we?
Yes, ma'am.
The new standard. So
Yes, ma'am.
take the zero experience away from them and give them their
Whatever their
28 or 33.
Yes, ma'am.
Absolutely.
Mr. Johnson?
First off, thank you, Dr. Cooper. Thank you, Dr. James. This is something I've been concerned about and asked about for a couple of years. I appreciate y'all bringing this to us because I do think we have been non-competitive in this area, and I know for a fact of 2 or 3 teachers that we have lost because of this policy. So thank you for bringing it. I think it's a disservice that we've been doing to our teachers who have those years of experience by telling them they're only worth the same amount as a brand new teacher. So I really appreciate you bringing it to us, and yeah, thank you.
Mr. Bingham?
So to clarify, when would this take effect?
In the upcoming year.
So it would not affect the 3 who are currently hired.
We're not going to give them a raise now, no. It would be July 1, which would actually be August.
Just want to make that clear.
I'm sorry, Mr. Bingham, I should have known. I would have had better numbers for you.
Well, I just want to make that clear so that misinformation is not disseminated in the community, that all of a sudden next week, and when they get their paycheck, that they're thinking they're going to get more because we passed something tonight.
No, sir. If you all pass this, it won't change anybody now. And if those 3 get to come back, it will affect them next school year. But they may not get to come back, so.
I understand. Thank you.
We have a motion, we have a second. Do we have any more discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Now, the next item on the agenda is consideration of first and second reading of updated statute for change of contract, insurance date, board policy, GCB, professional staff contracts, and compensation.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. James. In your packet under 7, reference C2, is a model policy given to us by the School Boards Association that will change and bring up to date our current policy, GCB, which has the old dates as it relates to employment and teacher dismissal as far as renewal of teacher contracts. The administration recommends first and second reading of this policy that we adopt the model language issued by South Carolina School Board Insurance.
Thank you, Dr. Cooper. I have a recommendation. Do I have a motion?
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we waive policy and take up first and second reading for an updated statute in board policy GCB as proposed in the model presented by the School Board Association.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Brown. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is item D, recommendation of early site and foundation package for elementary number 2 on Cougar Drive. Mr. Eisenhower?
Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. James, we have again with us Todd Seas from Jump Carter Seas and Jeannie Kirk from Thompson Turner. And what we would like to do is to give you early site package and foundation package, I think, for elementary number 2, which will be on Cougar Drive. I will say, and I don't know if Mr. Cease is going to address this or not, but we've been directed to do a traffic study, and we're in the process of trying to figure out the impact of that study on what we might have to do on 378. But regardless of whatever it is, we're so deep into this, you know, we will have to react accordingly. We are in debate right now with, I think, District 1 traffic engineers and Mike James with the South Carolina Department of Transportation. And we had hoped and promised that we would have an answer to this by noon today, and that did not occur. So, Todd, you may want to bring us up to date on even that issue as you make this presentation.
All right, thank you, Don. Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. James. We thought we'd give you an update of the drawings so you'll know exactly what you're voting to spend money on the early site package and the footings and foundation plan. So this is the ES2 Cougar Drive Elementary School, located off of Cougar Lane. 378 runs up and down the right-hand side of the sheet. And as Don mentioned, we're based on some of the information that was shared in the city of West Columbia, we were required to do a traffic impact study. That was different than what the initial information that we had originally, but it was something that we had to do. That work has been done. It's been submitted to South Carolina DOT. And as Don said, we're in conversation with them now regarding exactly what the requirements will be. But based on that original study, everything along the site proper is what we're presenting tonight, and it hasn't changed. So just to kind of give you an idea, as you come in Cougar Lane, past Northside Middle School, all the way down almost to Wilson Howard Park, you'll be able to turn in. Parents will have this really large stacking space. We have almost 170 parking spaces within the site. We're thinking visitors and some staff park out front. The main bus loop is located here, along with additional staff parking. The driveway access out to Hummingbird will be for staff and emergency vehicles, and the buses will continue to use Cougar Lane and this go around this loop, drop kids off at the cafeteria, and then they can make their way on into the school. It's a sister school to Casey Elementary, so it's similar in nature, but we have a safe and secure front entranceway that the administrative area is going to be located here. The kindergarten wing is located in the center, along with additional kindergarten spaces in this wing, and first and second grade classrooms are flanking the main administration area. As I mentioned, the cafeteria is located here. The PE facility, which is sized for 2 teachers and over 5,000 square feet within that space, as well as the elective type areas, project lab spaces, as well as music and art is located adjacent to the cafeteria. And then the media center is located on the opposite end of the plant. On the second floor, we'll house the 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders, and they're in groups where 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders are located. If you have a bigger class one year or the other, one classroom might have to switch to the next wing. We wanted to give this school its own identity, and so we've addressed kind of this front entranceway. Again, a very traditional look where the brick matches Northside Middle School. We're still using some wood heavy timbers with a very wide radius archway as an entrance to the school. And then the front entrance also has the rock cast material that emphasizes the front of the school. This is a shot and kind of, if you were slightly above the ball fields at Howard Park, looking back toward 378, you can see the media center located on this end. We also have a number of areas where we're letting natural light into the center of the corridors and the collaborative areas. And there's also a very ample covered walk system associated with the plans. So not only will the children riding buses be able to be dropped off under canopy, there will be numerous points along this parent drop-off where there'll be covered walks, so students on a rainy day will be able to gain access into the school. And this is just kind of an eye level looking back toward the elementary school, kind of from the curve that goes around. Joel and I have been working hard on creating this project. We have some really talented young people who create these walkthroughs, and so we got a 3D just kind of fly around of the school. All right, and now Jeannie's going to present the cost for the early site and foundation package.
Todd, can I ask one question?
Yes.
Room for expansion. Can you show me if we do end up growing and need more space? I know we're building for larger than our population already, but if we did have an influx, where do we have room for expansion?
So we have room for a small addition at the back of this wing, and you can see how it's not quite as deep as the center wing, and so that's where we would propose the additional classrooms. Okay. I think I failed to mention, but we've got a play area in between the cafeteria and elective space here with the outdoor basketball court. We have a safe and secure kindergarten play area between the two kindergarten wings, and then we have a large play field adjacent to Wilson Howard Park on this end of the site. I've also started conversations with Randy Gibson at Lexington County Rec, and certainly the school district has a good relationship, and he is certainly amenable to, if you need additional space for play fields, that he can work that out. Most of their activities take place 5:30 or later in the evening, and that's something that we've just started a conversation. He's certainly open to that if you need more play space outside.
Excuse my voice, I've lost it completely. Madam Chair, Dr. James, members of the board, thanks for having me here again tonight. The sheet that I've given you is a record of where we are with the final contract documents for the early site package as well as the foundations package for this elementary school project. So the final number for this package is $4,642,205. This is right in line where we were a year ago with elementary school one, so we were really excited. When the big difference was only about $50,000 delta between the two of us, actually was less. So I'm not quite sure how that happened. We'll be thankful for it, and we hope that that success continues as we continue to bid out the rest of the job. You'll note that I'll also indicate there's an allowance for unsuitable soils and rock. We don't anticipate it. The soils report doesn't indicate it, but we wanted to be safe in case there is something over there due to the conditions that we know are in that area. If we don't use it, of course, we'll get it back. And then, of course, this also includes the 5% construction contingency that we've been including on all of our jobs, and if we don't spend them, of course, that will also be returned to GE. Our goal is to receive drawings from Jungle Park, receive final contract documents for the entire project early March, see if they can give them to us, and then this March. That's what Lori told me. So I think maybe the second week of March, and then we're trying to get you a GMP in April. If it doesn't happen, we get you final GMP in May, but we're really going to push forward trying to get you the GMP in April since this is a somewhat larger job Vinny has one, it's about 10,000 square foot building. Vinny has one. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
So, Madam Chair, the administration recommends approval of the contract for the early site foundation package in the amount of $4,642,205 to Thompson Turner Construction.
Have a recommendation, do I have a motion?
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we award the early site and foundation package to Thompson Turner in the amount of $4,642,205.
Second by Ms. Kessie. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. 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 Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. The next item is consideration of district-wide telephone system replacement.
Apologize for having to hand this to you. It was hot off the press as of yesterday. Madam Chair, what you have in front of you is the best that we can do right now for a district-wide phone system replacement. I've handwritten some notes in here, and I hope you forgive my chicken scratch, but
It's not too bad.
I think you will see when you have a chance to read through this that we have given considerable consideration to how we want to do this. But basically, we have construction going on at several different sites, and a lot of pricing is predicated by what we end up having to do above ceiling. Like right now at Congaree Elementary, we know that we're going to have enough above ceiling inspection, so we're going to have to go in, basically take out most of the old wiring that's up there that's not installed to code, and put new wiring in at today's code standards. So we've asked George Corley, and I think is George here? Yeah. Okay. We had asked him to go out and evaluate. He went out and took some pictures, and basically he came back and said, I'm going to need more time, because there are some complicated things above ceiling that we will end up having to deal with. But our plan is to bring you these projects for approval as we determine the scope of work that needs to be done. So what we're asking you to do tonight is to approve basically those 6 areas, which Airport High School maintenance really is. It's 2 areas, but it's kind of combined. Transportation, BC High School, Northside Middle School, Busby Creative Arts Academy. Those are the only ones that we can bring to you tonight, because we know what needs to be done there. Now, if you look at the notes, part of what we have discussed, and what we'd like to do from a long-term standpoint, is we would like to combine some of our schools like Pine Ridge Middle, Seawick, and Wood, all on one PRI system, which is basically 23 lines that would be shared between those 3 campuses, and that would be a considerable cost savings. Now, I'll admit that I don't understand all of the jargon with regard to all of this. That's why I have David Eskew and George here. But we also want to do that with the Northside Middle School and Elementary 2. We also want to do it with the Casey Elementary, the Cade Center, and the Busby Creative Arts Academy. So right now, our high schools, our 2 high schools and our larger middle schools have what's called PRIs, which is 23 lines, as I understand it. George, are you here?
I'm here.
Am I correct in saying?
You are.
And basically the balance in providing, I think it's 11 lines, is where it becomes equal in cost. So when we get to a point where we've got 11 lines, we might as well go ahead and go to a PRI, which gives us 23 lines. And that's basically the kind of thinking that we've been doing. So we've decided we want both of our high schools and all of our middle schools to at least have on PRIs. The smaller elementary schools would not be on PRIs, but the larger elementary schools would be. So that's probably more information than you needed, but I just wanted you to know that this design team has worked hard to try to analyze this, and we're going to do the best that we can and give you the most that we can for the money that we have available. So Madam Chair, with that said, I'd like to recommend that we approve contract to replace our school-wide phone system in the amount of $221,541.89 to Telcom Incorporated.
We have a recommendation, do I have a motion?
Make a motion that we approve the recommendation to contract Telcom to replace the school-wide telephones.
Have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Johns. Discussion, Mr. Bingham?
On the idea of connecting the multiple schools with the one PRI card, so you're going to have a D-mark with 23 lines coming in at one spot at one school, how then do we get half of that line over to the other school? Right now, you're serving both schools independently with T1s or whatever that give those schools their independent service. So if we're going to demark at one school, that means that we got to now run cabling from one school over to the other school because we're going to break it out. Is that correct?
5 o'clock, as I understand. George, you and David want to come up and kind of help to answer that?
Schools are going to have to be connected for that to work, you're right. But we would use the fiber optic cable, and then it's sort of like a data circuit. You plug all the phones into your data circuit. So, you know, as long as you got fiber between all 3 schools, then it's all the same data circuit, so they'll all work together.
So whatever we're talking about is inclusive of running whatever we've got to between these campuses?
Not in this price. That's because all of those sites are basically involved in construction at this point in time.
The sites we're talking about combining is not in this. That'll be like Casey Elementary and Cape Center and Busby.
Now we do have, and David, you correct me if I'm wrong, but I try to listen well. We do have a fiber optic connection right now between Pine Ridge and Concrete Wood and Wood that is dead, that we would reactivate basically just for the phone system. Is that correct?
That's correct. It's dark.
So that one already exists.
But whatever you're going to do in these other schools where you do that, you're going to figure to put that in as part of the phones.
Yes.
And that still makes it less expensive.
According to these experts, yes, sir.
We don't have to have lines for both schools. Both schools can share lines.
So it's cheaper to run the fiber to the different ones than running two separate lines to each school.
Well, you have to pay the phone company twice if you run them to both schools. This way you don't really pay them at one time.
We'll do more cost analysis. I just wanted you to know that we were looking at trying to minimize long-term costs in any and every way that we can. We're just really, I always try to challenge our folks to try to come up with the best way to do these things, and I applaud Mr. Corley and David both for really trying to think through this. And right now, that's kind of our thought process, is we think we can save money. When we get into it more deeply, when we start analyzing it, there could be some potential factors that come into play that we're not aware of, but Right now, with those construction sites being underway, we just feel like we can sleeve the roads and do what we need to do with fiber.
Any questions? Discussion? We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is consideration of methods to move teachers from Springdale, Little River, Davis, and Taylor into schools for next year.
And I'd like to ask Tommy King to come up. We've asked him to try to put together and do some research on some different options that we might be able to employ with regard to moves that are coming up soon. And after we kind of get some information from you guys tonight, we will start publicizing this information with our teachers and communities.
Madam Chairman, members of the board, Dr. James, during our last meeting, you asked for some information. You made some suggestions on different methodology of making these moves. I've tried to address those in the piece of paper you have in your packet there. One or two things we want to continue to highlight is all this is going to have to follow a certain sequence, and everything's got to fall in place. It's got to be staged, it's got to be staggered, everything's got to hit just right. And one thing that we did not discuss at the last meeting, which I wanted to make sure you are aware, the administration in each of those schools is going to have to remain open. In other words, Saluda River is going to have to remain open at Saluda River until we can get it moved to Davis. Because we can't move Davis out until they're ready to move in the other one. Because people will be coming all year long to register, to get transcripts, for various other things. So we have to keep those open. So this isn't something we're going to walk in one day, we're going to grab everything in that school and go. It's going to be a lot of coordination and orchestration to make it work. We also did not discuss furniture, computers in those places, because we're going to have to move all of those things out of Saluda River, Springdale, those areas. We talked about some options. I've tried to list those for you. We talked about employing an outside firm. They had a pair of people in a vehicle, and you see the rates for that group. A little high. We also had part-time labor from temp agencies. You'll see the hourly rate that I was able to secure there after talking with some of them. We also talked about the possibility of utilizing high school students, and then we talked about the possibility of using bus drivers. Pros and cons of all of them exist. The first group there, they have a vehicle, but that's a lot of money for 2 people and 1 vehicle. The part-time help would not be able to drive our trucks because they wouldn't be covered under our insurance policies, as would the high school students. The bus drivers already have a commercial driver's license. They'd be able to drive all of our vehicles. They're covered under our insurance. There's a positive right there. They're already district employees. We already have a background check. For these number of reasons, that is going to be one option that we're going to talk about in just a moment. One other option would be employing a company. You've seen the Pods company or some company like that. If we get in a tight where we have to move something and just store it. I have the prices on that. It's not attractive. It's a last resort type of thing. If we just absolutely can't get into school with some of that and we have to store it somewhere, that is an option I've already set aside that we could use, but it's expensive. It's something we don't want to do. We have to handle the stuff 2 and 3 times. That way, they have a warehouse. They can bring the pod, reload it, take it to their warehouse, keep it till we're ready to unload it. Not what we want to do, but it is an option. Finally, we could use a combination of all of these. But I think that the main thing we need to look at is, first of all, our bus drivers don't have any work during the summer except for the few that do drive those summer programs. A lot of them go and get part-time jobs during the summer. They're continuously looking for that and asking, do you have anything I can do? This isn't new to us. We did this, if you'll recall, those of you that were here when we did Davis, Taylor, and Pear. It's exactly what we did when we did that, so it's nothing new to us. We've done it before. We know how to do it. We'll get the boxes. We'll get instructions on how to pack them, how to load them, how to label them. We'll get them moved. And pray that everything falls in place just like it's supposed to. And then when August opens up, we'll give the teachers plenty of time to get their rooms in order, and the administrators time to get their offices in order, and everything will work smoothly. And that sounds real good. Be glad to answer any questions, but our recommendation will be that we utilize the bus drivers in making this move as our first option.
Time of question. You mentioned moving desk and stuff from Springdale and from Saluda River. Do you mean just because of the construction aspect they have to be out for remodeling?
That is correct. We'll have to get some of that out of the way for them to move. We may be able to store it on site until we dispose of it, but we will have to move some of it.
I just want to make sure you weren't talking about moving.
Not only that, some of the specific furniture. You got to keep in mind, right now Davis is set up for kindergarten, first, second. Taylor's third, fourth, fifth. We've got to swap furniture back and forth as well, kindergarten through sixth at both of those locations. So there's a lot of other things that's got to happen as well. Some of the specialized stuff like the kidney tables, some of the specialized stuff at the kindergarten. I know that kindergarten teachers at Springdale are going to want some of their stuff to go with them. And we can do that and get it out of the way during construction as well, to protect the stuff that we know we may use in the future. Yes.
Thank you.
I might also add that we are allocating furniture money to all of our schools, and by the time, it's a 2-year process that we propose to, but by the time these 2 schools open back up, they will have needs to have removed all of the furniture for the most part, and new furniture will be in place.
And that's one other option that's a little bit isolated from this, but it still would have to do with this, because at some point, we've got all the other schools that are going to be getting 50% of their funding for this coming year. We're going to have to come up, we aren't sure exactly whether we're going to be able to dispose of that furniture on site, or we're going to move it to a surplus, or whatever we have to do with it, but that's another option that may require manpower as we go through this process.
Tommy, can we look into also allowing some of the students to help too, so they can become invested in our schools, give them activities during the summer? Because I did not know that all the bus drivers could handle all the lifting, carrying, box toting that our students could do.
That was one of the things I mentioned, any combination of these options, we could do that, absolutely. We could have a group of students that could come and do this during the summer.
I know that's where they went through. I mean, we actually painted the schools and all during the summer, so we did. And you sort of feel part of the district if you do that.
Would they be covered under the district insurance, I'm saying? You know that? It's an important piece of it.
I made myself a note about that as well, just to check on that, and any kind of, like a temporary type help, so I'll check on that.
Okay. I think it's a great idea too, but the insurance thing is
Those of you that have been around a while know we used to use summer help at maintenance and some of the grounds work and whatnot. It was a long, long, long time ago, but it kind of went by the wayside. So,
Some of us have been around that long.
yes, ma'am. We got a lot of new students, but yes, that's why I mentioned in the bottom item there a combination of these options. We could utilize a group of students as well as a group of bus drivers. We would have the drivers and we would have some labor as well. So, yes.
Any other questions? Okay, so you're wanting a motion?
The recommendation, Ms. Wood,
Madam
is
Chairman, I make a motion that we use bus drivers to assist in moving in various items from school to school during the summer in preparation for construction work in multiple schools. Second.
We have a motion and we have a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Madam Chair, the last item on my list is item G, and basically we've gone through and modified the painting schedule proposal based on the amount of construction that we have going on right now. We just think it makes sense to go ahead and paint those as we're doing construction, so that, again, when they come back in August, they'll be coming back to a relatively new school. So it would be our recommendation that we have Rose Powder to create specifications to paint Seawick Wood, Pine Ridge, Congaree, Saluda River, and Springdale.
Motion to approve painting projects is recommended by administration.
Have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Kelsey. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed, motion carries. All right, next item on the agenda is consideration of request for out-of-state overnight student travel.
I make a motion to approve out-of-state school administration. Second.
Discussion. All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion
Jerry, I
carries.
just want y'all, well, y'all, that he pays me $20 a meeting.
He did take 2 steps tonight.
It's getting closer to the front.
All right, next item on the agenda is the administrative divisional reports. True.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, over to the superintendent.
Madam Chair, we told the board at the last meeting that as we work through calendar options, we would come back to the board with the options before we ask for further input throughout the district. Mr. Hinton has done an outstanding job of giving you every bit of information you could ever want to know about the impending eclipse. How you can turn your home into an Airbnb. We're looking at somewhere around 1 million individuals, which is kind of hard for me to imagine to come here to observe the eclipse. But basically, we have 3 drafts, and one of them has marked a possibility, and it is, quite honestly, a long shot with a limited way that General Assembly would have to change, or at least make some concessions in the law. Right now, the law says that school cannot begin before the 3rd Monday in August. That calendar would begin on the 17th. There is discussion about that in the legislation, but it also involves discussion that you would have to have school on the day of the eclipse, and there would have to be lessons pertaining to it. But the 2 calendars that we put together is sort of early and late, kind of finish up how you look at it. The first calendar has the teachers coming back on the 14th, 5 in-service days, then in-service days interspersed throughout the year, and then the 2 last days of the year, the 7th and 8th of June, being in service, and we would propose those as graduation dates that would give Airport and Brooklyn Casey their own day to graduate. There are no weather makeup days on holidays with this calendar, which is one of the things that has pushed it out a little bit further than you've seen. Typically, we have in-service days throughout the year, including the one in October that typically coincides with somewhere around fair time. End of the 9 weeks, you have 45-day, 9-week periods. All in all, a pretty good calendar, with the exception of the fact that it does go a little longer than you all talked about last year. The second calendar, draft B, begins with 5 days in August for the teachers to come back. It ends for students on the 1st of June. There would be 3 in-service days on the 4th, 5th, and 6th. There's no in-service date in October. Weather makeup days are the 4th and 5th of June, so in essence, we could be coming to school on those days if we had to make it up, which would kick graduation out to a further date. But it's 2 very, very different calendars. We think we put in a lot of things that the board has talked about, trying to get us out of school as early as possible, trying to do things like making certain that our weather makeup days are not tied to holidays, trying to get all the holidays in that are normally recognized statewide, the 9-week periods and those sorts of things. So what we'd like to do is give the board some time to look at these calendars. I know Ms. Brown talked last time, she and I were a little bit of a different idea about where things were going. She shocked me a little bit when she started talking about votes. Typically, I discuss this with the teacher cabinet and the parent cabinet, kind of get some feedback and work our way back. But the first thing we want to do is let the board look at this and make sure that we've got the things that you all feel are important, and we don't get too caught up on the possibility calendar. You got to understand, Jim Hinton is weatherman extraordinaire. He could not help but do this, but that's a really long shot. And we had our Midland Superintendent's meeting here yesterday. It's 15 Midlands districts, and we don't have anyone in the Midlands that is going to start before the 22nd. So the eclipse not going to be in school, and the eclipse is the one thing out of all these calendars that's really important to me. I'm a little bit concerned because we've been told that those 99-cent film glasses are certainly not safe for kids to look at the eclipse, and we'd hate for somebody to end up with injury. But I'll be glad to answer anything that you'd like before we start to get feedback from the board. Brad?
A couple questions on that. So first, the statement. Thank you, number one, for putting in the effort, and this is real obvious when with all the information about surrounding districts, trying to coordinate with them, that kind of thing. I appreciate that very much. But it's obviously a lot of thought went into these, and a couple of things that I noticed is, we've got in-service days kind of scattered throughout, so we break up some of those long stretches, which I appreciate, and also I appreciate the doing the weather makeup days where they make sense, where you potentially have a extended weekend or extended holiday, something like that. The one question I have is on draft B. We've got weather makeup days of June 4th and 5th. If we actually had to use those, because we also have the in-service days, scheduled for the same there. If we actually did have to use those as weather makeup days, would the teachers then have to stay 7th and 8th?
Yes, sir.
Because they can't, it has to be separate, correct?
Yes, sir. Okay. Yes, sir. So they would kick us out to the 7th and 8th, and not only that, most jobs, probably that would put graduation on the 7th and 8th in all reality.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm certainly not asking the board for any kind of action. What I would like is, before we start to talk about this, and obviously, I didn't realize they were going to stick that up there, but obviously that's pretty public right now, but I would like some feedback from the board. If there's anything that you would like to see in the calendar that we have not put in there, differences and all, before we start to get feedback from teachers and principals and folks in the community. One thing that we did do, Mr. Johnson alluded to the information that Jim pulled together on the other districts. We did try to coincide our spring break with the other districts because we have a lot of employees that live in other districts that have children. If we all have the same spring break, then we don't have the issue of folks being out or having spring break their children. So we tried to coincide that with the first week of April, which typically the weather's better anyway. But for your information, please look at it. There's no pride in office. We'll be glad for you to be present.
Do we have any questions, Ann, comments? Next item on the agenda is instruction.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. James. As you're aware, each year we're required to bring to you our homeschool report history. So you'll see our history as it pertains to years starting in 1999 to 2016-17. I do want to note from the 140 to 178, excuse me, that kind of alarmed me when I saw, why we had such an increase. So we went back and looked at our historical data, and what we have found is that 5 of these homeschool associations did not report last year. And so that makes up a significant difference in the numbers in terms of what you see with the 140. And then there was a new homeschool association, Heart Association, that has come aboard this year. So it's not as significant as it looked. It's just for some reason those 5 homeschool associations did not report. And I'll entertain any questions at this time.
Any questions?
The next thing is, last month we presented to you a draft of our strategic plan. Ms. Bickley was nice enough to email that link out to you. I hope you had an opportunity to read over the plan. At this time, we will take any comments for consideration for anything you would like for us to look at before we bring it to you in March. We do know there was a question or a comment regarding Grad Point. We do intend to bring you a presentation in March regarding Grad Point. The reason we didn't bring it tonight is because since our last board meeting, the State Department has put out a revised uniform grading policy, which impacts content and credit recovery. So it only made sense to bring the revisions to you with regards to what is new in the revised uniform grading policy along with that presentation, because it does go hand in hand. And based on what we're reading and hearing and seeing, we're going to have to make some changes to how we're doing our practices as well. So we'll bring that information to you in March. And at that time, we'll also be asking you for approval of our strategic plan.
Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is finance.
Good evening, thank you. I have the January financials, the revenue. January is the big month for property tax revenue, and we did very well with our property tax revenue, and I have another little schedule to update you after this on that. I'll be happy to answer any questions right now on revenue. And also the expenditures. Still within a reasonable amount remaining. The next is just a comparison of where we are this through January tax collections on the next page. Oh, I'm sorry, no, it doesn't have it. You have it, right? What did it? I want to make sure you're here. Compared to the prior January, we're about $2 million up, which is really good. I did ask for an updated assessed value, and we're up about 3.47% on our assessed value as well. So that's a good trend that we're seeing. Hope that continues, because that's going to help us on local revenue as well as on our bond issues as well, our 8%, because it's based on our assessed value and what we can issue on those. So I just wanted to alert you to that. And there again, this is through January. We will get some in February, and then we'll continue to get vehicle tax revenue through the rest of the year. So it looks really good right now compared to, I look back also at just the same comparison from the prior year to the year before, and it was only around a little over $500,000 over the previous year. So this is a good increase though. But that increase in the assessed value was attributable. This was attributed to that. So just want to make you aware. The next page is just the referendum. This does have the increase, the additional lines for the estimates on Springdale and the Blue River on that as well. So we should have most of the projects on here and the estimates that we know of at this point in time. So be happy to answer any questions on that as well. Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next is Administration and Student Services, Building Progress Report.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. James.
I'm sorry, I'll hold you up just a second. If there's no objection, the financial reports will stand approved as presented. Okay, Mr. Eisenhower.
Thank you. I think we'll have to give Todd an award of some sort. So he's been here the whole meeting. I've been noticing Jenny's been nodding off over there. But anyway, here at this point in time, we would like to talk to you about the scope of work at William Casey High School. And if you recall, part of my goal has been to try to get everything on paper so that everyone understands what we're going to be getting out of the bond referendum. This is one of the last projects that we have left that we have not determined the full scope of work. So we've been working on this, and just like every project that we have, there probably will have to be some decisions made, but we are going to be close with the scope of work that we have that we're going to propose tonight, and also with the budget that we have. One of the big questions that we will have, and Todd's going to talk about this, is exactly what is expected on the work at the auditorium. That, I guess, is the biggest question that we have. We think we know what you want, but we just need to confirm that. So with that, Todd.
All right. Thank you, Don. Yes, so tonight we'd like to share the proposed plans for Brooklyn Casey High School. And again, it's based on information that we've had for a number of years and also information that we've reconfirmed with the administration and the folks at Brooklyn Casey High School. So just to orient you, State Street runs across the bottom of the drawing here. You can see the new and renovated areas are in this sort of brick red burgundy color. And this is the location of the new gym arena sitting on the original Motel 6 site. We've got connectivity over to the existing campus via concrete walks wide enough for students to move freely back and forth. And then we've also added some additional parking on that property as well. So much needed parking will be added. We're proposing basically completing the renovation of the what was the original vocational building, which will now become the Science and Technology building. You know, you've gone through 3 phases of the I2 Tech program. So there's a 4th phase, and then some additional science labs would be located in this area. The north wing, we would propose to renovate the existing science labs and some project lab space in the old original home ec space in the north wing, as well as redoing the group toilets here. The auditorium would be completely renovated, and we would propose new seating, new finishes. We'll include enclosing a lobby space, so when you enter from outside, you actually go into a small lobby space before you gain access into the auditorium house. And then the existing stage would be totally reconstructed. There's some rotten wood and all that comes out. We rebuild the stage, and then we would also provide connectivity back to some of those spaces that back up to that auditorium that could be used for green rooms and dressing rooms. And those spaces were across from the original cafeteria location. So that's what we're proposing for the auditorium. The south wing renovation project would include addressing safe and secure entry points into the administrative area, and then also modifying the layout of guidance and the admin area so that they work closely together, and actually relocate guidance more toward the opposite side of the hallway that's existing. We're also, sorry. Yes. Proposing a new press box for baseball field, a shared toilet and concession facility for softball and baseball, and then also a covered area for batting cages that the softball team and the baseball team could use, as well as a few pitching mounds as well. So there's actually 4 bays of hitting and pitching. And then you can see we've added a 400-meter, 6-lane regulation track. And the shape of this track is elongated a bit, but it meets all of the high school regulations as far as radii in the ends and the straightaways for the sprints. But it takes up that entire area. So from the property line to the building, existing Science and Technology building over to the property line will be filled up with track. And it basically runs from just off of the softball outfield fence all the way up to the driveway behind the south wing, and that driveway has to be modified to accommodate the track as well. We know that we have to set aside and create a list of priorities, as Don mentioned, so that we can bring the project in on budget. And we're prepared, the design team and the contractor, to begin work at your direction. And so there are some projects, and we've identified some projects that could be done in the summer of 17, but also starting in the fall of 17, if you have funds available, we'll be able to accommodate your wishes as how you'd like to proceed. All right, so Jenny's been working on some budget information.
Okay, so I don't know how much detail that you want. I can answer any questions that you would like. So basically what you see is what we've been given. In addition, we've been having a lot of dialogue with Todd in terms of more specific narratives. So we've been asking a lot more specific questions to try to hone in and develop some more specific budgets. So what we've done is break all of this into mini projects. We have it broken into about 7 projects, plus if there's some additional maintenance work that still needs to be completed that was set aside in the budget. So, of course, the arena is one of the projects, and you all have already known that we've done a pretty detailed estimate on that. Our current budget that we're carrying is about $10.5 million, and we think that's ample. We then broke out the second project to be the athletics portion of the work, which would be that press box, the concessions, the toilets, and the batting cages. If that's something that was a priority to you, we could start that this summer, and Todd would be prepared to get us the documents so that we could start this summer. And it might push a little bit into the school year. We might not finish the end of the summer, but it could be a summer project if that was a priority for you. The intent in me telling you all this is to kind of inform you with the information and with the numbers and arm it and pair it with Todd's scope and his description so that you can tell us what are your priorities and when do you want these projects to happen. Because if we don't have enough money, whatever's left is maybe what we won't have afford to be able to do when we get out to 2019, 2020. But the hope would be that if we are conservative and really continue to return contingencies each summer through each of these phases, that you'd be able to afford all of the work. But we want to prioritize what you definitely want to make sure you get what you need, particularly with the scope, say, for the auditorium. So that would be the second project. Another thing that we would be prepared to start perhaps in the fall, if that is a priority for you, would be the auditorium. Again, we want to refine that scope of the auditorium if that is what you want. If you want numbers on where we are on these, I can give them to you. I don't know if you want to get into that minutia. It's my understanding that the budget for Local Casey is $21,202,500. It's also my understanding that coming out of that money is the funds that you use to purchase the property for Motel 6. If that is not the case, that gives you some additional money to spend on construction. But that's again for you to tell me currently we're accounting for that $1.8 million in the budget. The third project, I said the auditorium. The fourth one would be, of course, the science and technology, which would be the IT Tech building, completing that work. And then the fifth would be the north wing. It would be our hope. We were thinking of this in a multi-phased. We kind of had a good collaborative session with Don and Todd and I today. We were trying to think of it in terms of a multi-phased approach, either 3 or 4 phases. If we did 3 phases, we were thinking this summer, spilling slightly into the school year with the athletics, if that should be your priority. Summer 2018, we were thinking that we could pair the science and vocational with the north wing renovation. And then summer of 2019, we could do the south wing and the old gym if the funds could accommodate that. We could pair the auditorium with the south wing that summer, or if you prefer to start the auditorium, we're prepared to be able to do that this fall. So the 4 phases would be summer, fall, summer, summer. 3 phases would be summer, summer, summer. But if you opt to select that last summer of 2019, I would not expect that auditorium is going to be complete before the beginning of January, probably 2020, according to what we were laying out today.
And we've talked about how you actually phase the auditorium, so that we could isolate a construction entrance and separate the students from that auditorium space, so that there won't be any overlap of construction personnel and students. So we'll be able to separate those construction activities from the normal school day. About 520. So, yeah. 600. Yeah. So you know how tight and cramped it is right now, and so when we respace the aisles
with the lobby.
Yeah, and extend that lobby, we're going to lose some of the seating capacity.
If you did start an auditorium this summer, this fall, what do you think estimated completion would be? Beginning of the year, going into the final school year, or what's the time frame on that if we did start now?
So we've kind of estimated a 6 to 8 month construction period for that auditorium.
Depending upon if we get the full summer, without anybody in the building. Obviously, there's a little bit more logistical kind of situation.
Would it be possible, to do auditorium and athletics? I mean, auditorium, it sounds like it can be a project by itself. Is that right? Is that accurate? I mean, I know it's a pretty major thing. You would not have to pair that with the remaining building that's attached to it.
If Todd were prepared with the drawings, I don't know, it might be pushing it to start in June. We could pair the athletics with the auditorium. Now, we would probably be done with everything in the athletics in September, October. The auditorium probably wouldn't be complete until the end of December, ready for the kids to come back from school in January.
Right.
So some of you remember we've been working on the athletics for a while. So those drawings are well developed and they're ready to go. The auditorium's going to take a little more time to get done. So a June start date is probably not really realistic, but certainly a fall would be.
Todd, you've got a 6-lane track there. Jerome Singleton at high school league, 6-lane track. You're right, they don't have any problem with that, with the exception of the fact that if you run in a region meet, you need 8-lane track.
Correct.
I guess my question is, put 8-lane track there, I mean, well, you can't, if they're going to have a new track, not to be able to run a region meet there is,
So Dr. James,
it's tough.
Yeah, Dr. James, you can see there literally there's not any room between this building and the property line for 2 additional lanes.
I will say that we've talked to Mr. Morton, and Mr. Morton is more than willing to work with the team to start construction and make available. For instance, we asked, if we needed the auditorium for 6 months to a year, are you willing to make some concessions? And he has indicated that if we told him tomorrow that we were ready to start, that he felt like his folks would be willing to make that space available. Obviously, what Todd's saying and what Jenny's saying too, it takes a good while to get these designed, get it approved through the Office of School Facilities. To me, even starting in fall is very optimistic, because that means we would have to get things to the Office of School Facilities this summer, and they really don't do much evaluation of plans and that sort of thing while they're out inspecting during the summers. So I don't want to in any way mislead anybody. I think we're looking at probably, at best case scenario, January, maybe February, before we can start some of this heavy stuff. Now, the summer stuff, as Todd has indicated, if that's a priority of the board, and if you understand that we're probably going to have to make some cuts, and talking to the administration, the track is one of the things that probably would be one of the areas that we would have to look at, especially if we're doing a district-wide track, which is the plan. Renovation of that old gym might also be something, no more than it gets used. That might be something that would also be something that we would look at value engineering. So We also look today, and we know that this board has given us clear direction that they don't want us to leave spaces that are dilapidated and that sort of thing. We've looked at the weight room today, we looked at some of the locker rooms today, and it would be our goal to try to address some of those as well. We've got drop ceilings in locker rooms that are in disrepair. We would go in and try to fix some of that up. There's a request from the principal to look at the existing weight room and trying to make that a dance area, which would, we would get into some flooring and some mirrors, and those floors get expensive. So basically what we're telling you is that we're willing to start. I think realistically we could start some of the spring, some of the work on the ball fields if that we know that that's going to make the cut. But ultimately, there's no doubt in my mind that we're going to have to look at either some value engineering or the contracts will have to, the bidding will have to be very favorable for us to be able to accomplish all of these things that we've identified. Just we added work to the scope today just by going and visiting and looking at the gymnasium, dressing rooms, locker rooms, and that sort of thing.
Let me just ask this, I'll ask this another way. Now, we're doing improvements to the airport track as well, right, Dr. James? Would you be able to get 8 lanes on that so that you coast to region be there? There's no way to get 8 lanes on either high school.
No, ma'am. And that was one of the things, the reason I called Jerome Singleton is to find out if we, in fact, could have region meetings at our high schools. And there are schools that have 6-lane tracks, but
that's where they run.
But that's where they run them. But we've got regions. You got 4A regions, a big 3A. You got a lot of kids there. You try to run a track meet off with 6. Most folks don't want to come there and do that.
But Dr. Jones said, like, that's just when you get to, like, there's only one, I think, the way I see it, I think there's only one region track meet, but like BC or Airport, if you did the 6 lanes, could host and ask Swansea and Airport and BC to all come run on one of them. Is that correct? And it would still be,
That's correct.
Count towards the standings and
I
everything?
mean, you could have a track meet against other schools.
It's just you couldn't have the region at the very end of the whole season. There's just one track meet you couldn't have with this scenario.
Correct.
And how likely and how often does that occur, and how much benefit does that give the district to have a region meet? I know it's nice to host it, but I mean,
I'm being optimistic that they'll win, Mr. Johnson.
no, I understand that, but what is the benefit other than just us being a host school?
I mean, there's no monetary, there's nothing monetary or nothing other than the, I guess, the pride factor that shows with the fact that you're running at your side.
Right. But we can basically have 2 very nice 6-lane tracks.
Oh, we could have 2 6-lane tracks, yeah.
One each high school.
I think maybe Kay's going to take my next question.
At one point, we axed the district track. Is that something we can bring back up now to have? Because at one time, we, as a board, said no to the putting the district track at a separate site.
We're prepared to do whatever the board wants to do with regard to the track. We just don't know how strongly you feel about the need to be able to host a regional meet. What our goal was in doing this was to be able to basically allow both schools to be able to build a competitive track team, both male and female, by having facilities on each campus. And having been a high school principal and been a coach through a lot of my career, it's difficult, in my opinion, to, and you know, I mean, if you didn't have a softball field, y'all didn't have one at one time. It's hard. Yeah, it's hard to build those programs if you don't have the facilities on campus.
But we had the room to do 2 nice 6-lane tracks, one at each high school.
That's correct.
And Don, some follow on Kay's question, but if, in fact, that we didn't end up going with a district-wide track at this point, there's money in our bond referendum money for that, so could you not take that and split it between the high schools to cover that portion of making these tracks nicer, rather than taking away from the 30, whatever you said was already?
Actually, there was no money set aside in the budget for a track. We, through, I think, conservative measures, we feel comfortable in saying to you that we feel that we can cover that need if it becomes, I guess, a desire of the board. And again, I think there would be limited use of a track that's not on either of these campuses if they had a 6-lane track on the site. Now, part of the issue that we will have here is the track is going to be there, but when you get into places to throw the discus, the shot, and those types of things, that's going to be difficult for us to find a place on that campus for those auxiliary throws and that sort of thing. Not to say that we can't, because we really haven't pursued that yet, but I would just say that right now that it could be a potential problem.
I agree with Ms. Kessler that I think the board had spoke that a district track was the last thing on our agenda, that we're not interested in that, especially, we think it's, certainly I think it's much more important that each school have a 6-lane track that is regulation than it is to have a district track somewhere else. Say you're not going to have a track here at BC, but you're going to have a district track off campus again. I mean, that's why we've been in the situation at BC we have, is because they moved athletic facilities away from the campus, and that detracts from the ability of that school in order to have successful athletic programs. So and that's why the football field ended up back on BC's campus. So I don't think, from my perspective, there's any question that I would rather see a 6-lane track at each high school and scrap a district track than I would to see no track at BC High School, or that unregulation track they have now, and some district track on campus. I think that's unacceptable.
Mr. House?
Back to the auditorium, and I'm aware this, obviously it's a personal, interest of mine, but it's also a situation that it is in dire need. If you step into that auditorium, you immediately smell the need for renovation there. So if it's possible, and I understand OSF issues and whatever, but I would love to see us at least push forward on that to see, can we get that going? And obviously we know the athletic stuff's kind of ready to go, plug in and go this summer. We're doing the field stuff, I'm sure we're supposed to be doing that kind of stuff as well. So I would love to see us move forward on the auditorium if that's a possibility.
And Ms. Kessler was asking all kind of things from.
A couple of things I want to say that's not going to be popular, but I want to say it. At one time, since I've been on board, we've been told that the airport track could be expanded. It would be tight, but it could be expanded to an 8-lane track. I'm kind of disappointed tonight to say that the same people who's worked with us is now saying, there's no way. However, I will go along with the crowd. I'm happy to have a 6-lane track. But I want the audience to understand that this school is getting twice what any other school is getting. And there's a lot of things that's being done at this school that was subtracted from other schools. So this list seems to be growing rather than being cut back some in like all the other schools. I find it kind of hard to sit here and say, okay, I'm being fair to the other schools when this is going on. It's beautiful. It's nice that the school can have all this, but I want you to realize that school's getting a lot of attention on this one. Duplicate in athletic offices, duplicates, everything. No doubt the auditorium needs to be renovated. We had a nice track, but we've got to learn to take care of our facilities too, because we had a regulation track, a gorgeous track. It was taken care of for a year or two, and then everybody got burned out with it, and we didn't take care of it. And obviously the same thing happened at the airport, because both tracks are now pathetic and should have been given some attention years ago. I just hope at the same time that we're putting all the monies into the renovations to make these facilities very, very nice and modern and up to date and great for everyone, that we're also working on aspects and ways that we're going to maintain and keep these facilities looking like they're new. And one thing I'll clarify, I was told just in the recent weeks that the construction would be completed at that campus in August of 2019. And now I'm hearing that auditorium won't be finished until 2020?
And then,
It depends.
I'll only say that if we didn't start the auditorium until that summer. But if we started earlier, that would not be the case at all.
And the principal's already said he's willing to give up the space so that you could start, correct? Okay, thank you.
Ms. Brown?
My first question would be to make sure that our timing of doing it, I'm ready to go when y'all are ready to go with the auditorium, because it's a desperate need, like Mr. Giles has indicated. But I want to make sure that we're not doing something with that, because I know we were doing some additional renovations, I believe, at Airport as well, in their auditorium. I want to make sure at least Airport's auditorium is available. We got to have one auditorium available at all times, because if you're going to take away this auditorium for a year, those kids in plays and stuff have to have a place to go. So that's a timing issue for me. I'm fine to start as much as possible, but let's coordinate. And then my second, Ms. Kessler, I am aware about how much money is going to this campus, but part of the issue of that is if you take away the arena and the auditorium, all we're doing, then you're not at that much extra money over any other school or any other projects. And all we're doing is the auditorium and the arena is just getting this campus up to par for an equitable position with the other schools.
I hear you, Ms. Brown.
Okay. Any other questions? Mr. Bingham?
Dr. James, with regard to the auditorium, what impact is that going to have while that auditorium is out during the school? They're just going to have to assembly in the gym, whatever.
And there will be, obviously, there will be some inconvenience. Mr. Morton's going to have to work around his meetings with his classes and all, use cafeteria, use the gym, those sorts of things. Now, like Ms. Brandon said, if we coordinate it where we don't have both high school auditoriums going part at the same time, those groups that use it for plays and that sort of thing would go to the airport campus. Having been a high school principal, it's not great to have your class meetings in the gym, but it's not uncommon. So I think as long as Mr. Morton and his staff have time to plan and know it's coming, it'll be inconvenient, but it won't be overly taxing.
And I would like to add, on the press boxes, we realize that there's a press box at Airport that is wood framed by some dads, that the only power is a drop cord running to it. It is a portable Hartman building that a few of us got together, donated material. We still have batting cages that are falling down that a lot of dads get together and keep building up every weekend, and still have lights that are running on drop cord with the kids plugging in to have lights down there to see at night. And we're spending all the money on one side. We are focusing heavily on press boxes. We already have a press box there that's built. And now we ignore the portable press box that we have at Airport.
Are there not plans at the airport for a press box on the baseball side? Because I agree with you. I mean, it's like a portable building sitting on top of the hill.
There's nothing else planned at Airport.
I thought that was part of the athletic with their field house and all the renovations and softball and baseball stuff.
I don't think it is, unless Dr. James knows something.
No, it should be. I agree.
If I may, Madam Chair, there are no current plans for that, but it is something that's on our radar that we would try to address if we do this at the press box and stuff at BC. I think it is something that we would consider trying to do with CPIF funds if money is available. Now, we're working on that budget now. We've got obviously a lot of painting and a lot of things that we have to do, but it is something that we are giving consideration to.
Kelly has been looking at CPIF money, and we have talked about that, and would not have brought that out to this board, particularly in public, because we don't know that the money's there, but, one of the things, Mr. Key, is we're aware, Don and I have looked at that press box at airport a lot. I can't tell you we have the money for that, but I can tell you that Kelly's looking to PIS funds, and if the money is available, that would be a recommendation that we would make. But had you, this conversation not come this way, we would have brought that out and told it yet, because we just don't know, and I don't want people to think that we're going to get something that we don't have money for.
Well, and also include the batting range and pitching covered.
We'd like to get as much as we can, Ms. Castle. I mean, our goal is that when you step on our campuses, wherever you step on, it's as fine as anywhere you could go. And the kids will be proud of their school, and people will be in awe to come in. That's our goal across the board.
I'd like to report that last week while we were at the convention, a 20-foot pipe was dropped off of the batting cages at airport in front of the students as they were setting it up. Thank goodness nobody was under it or somebody would have been hurt. But that was a metal pipe. Fell probably about 12 feet out of it.
Ms. Brown?
I mean, I don't know if you want a motion or what y'all looking for guidance, but I'd move to go ahead and look at what you're saying, start the athletic department auditorium based upon what the airport schedule is on the auditorium. I just can't emphasize that enough. But I think you're smart to phase it, and if you get the drawings done, go and get the auditorium done. But it'd be nice for that auditorium to only go over one school year loss, rather than starting it so we're losing 2 full school years.
If we could get that motion, Ms. Brown, that would move forward on Brooklyn Casey.
That was my motion. A motion to approve, starting with the athletics and the auditorium. And we don't need a motion for the rest of the phase. Y'all bring that to us later.
We'll bring it to you later.
That's my motion.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Madam Chair, I also I'm happy to answer any questions that any of you might have on the construction update information that I provided you. I will say that the demolition of the motel, is my understanding in talking with Thompson Turner just yesterday, that we have now acquired the proper permitting and gas and electrical and all that stuff has been turned off at the motel, and it is their intention to start demolition there on Monday. Now, we've offered up that motel for training of our EMTs, local law enforcement and that sort of thing, and I think they've been trying to make use of that yesterday, today, and tomorrow. I don't know how much they've been able to utilize it, but we felt like it was an opportunity for them to do some door breaches, to be able to go in and simulate some fires, to do some different things. So we felt like it was just a good opportunity to use the building to help our community. So we've offered that up, and to my knowledge, they have taken advantage of that to some extent.
Any questions?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Next item on the agenda is human resources, and we have no report, Dr. Cooper. All right. Next item is executive session. Turn that over to Mr. Freeman.
Madam Chair, I make a motion, Board of Trustees enter closed session for consideration of personnel appointments and resignations, for discussion of personnel matter, discussion of TIF intergovernmental agreement, discussion on property matter and contract, and discussion of contract matter.
Have a motion, do I have a second? Second, all in favor say aye. Aye.